Hey, is this Brian Burkhart?
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is Condor. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to me about insurance agency life. I just got a few questions to ask you about what it's like.
Absolutely, man. Fire away.
Can you say your name and what you do for a living for me real quick?
My name is Brian Burkhardt, and I am an executive producer at Texas First Insurance.
Sweet, thank you. All right, so first question I got is like in general, what are the likable aspects of what you do?
I mean, it's a sales role, so I'd be lying to you if compensation and money and the ability to dictate how much you make based off of your activity and success wasn't the top one.
Okay, so you like that it's all in your hands how much money you make, pretty much.
Yeah. The compensation plan for most agencies, including ours, and a lot of sales roles is you eat what you kill. So how hard you work, how good you are at what you do, kind of impacts your income and that for your family and the ones you care about.
That's cool. Okay, I like that. Okay, what about how did you come into this profession? Did you think you were gonna do this whenever you're coming through college and whatnot?
Absolutely not. And I've learned since I've been here the last few years, most people don't unless you have family in the business. And I don't have family in the business, but I have some family that in a banking industry that acquired this, and that's how I kind of learned about it. I did some more pharmaceutical medical stuff.
Okay.
But once this opportunity was discussed with me, I did some research on the industry and learned again about, one, the compensation, like I said, but two, the opportunity there. Just this industry as a whole it's very antiquated. So if you have some young visionaries that are willing to put the time in to succeed and make the changes necessary, not only for themselves in the production side, but the whole team you have around you, the employees, I think everyone can do real well. And it's kind of that, marathon idea of whoever gets there first is whoever gets out in the lead at whatever point it should be ahead for a while.
Yes, sir. So you had no clue that you're going to do this whenever you're coming through college. It's just an opportunity came up and you took it?
Yes, sir. I didn't know. Well, I didn't just take it. I didn't know anything about insurance. I knew what insurance was necessary before I took it. It was about 2.5, 3 years once I learned about it, and I took the time to dive into it and learn kind of what you and I just talked about, the compensatory part of it, the current state of the market, and the opportunity.
That's good. Okay, that's cool. Okay, what are some of the qualities that you possess that makes you a good insurance agent?
Oh.
Or what are the ones needed that what someone would need to be successful in this field?
In general, I would say it's just hard work. Like it just shows
good work ethic.
But that's transfer. Like that's any industry. It's a core belief I have. When I was in medical advice, one of my boss said, "Man, I've never sold this stuff before." He's like, "Just show up and stand by the board. If you're just there from 6:30 a.m. to 5:30, 6:30 p.m., surgeons will walk by, they'll see you, and they'll start talking to you." It's the same concept here. If you look at it, the construction industry, which we happen to focus on, or in the industry, just showing up's half the battle. Conversations are had. People are aware of you. They respect your work ethic, and you learn more. You fill the gaps of just not sitting there and Googling random stuff, but actually looking at stuff that's pertinent to you. That's my opinion. The other piece for sales as a whole, specifically here, I think I like people, or I see more people succeed is the way I should say it, that are not afraid to ask for the business, and they're aggressive, and they're knowledgeable about their product. Insurance is like banking or many things else. You can be a likable guy. People think you have to be likable in sales. You can be a likable guy or girl, but if you don't know what the heck you're talking about, you're going to put your customer or yourself or your organization in a real bad spot at some point.
So knowledge of what you're doing and being a social guy and getting your face out there is what you'd say, pretty much.
Yep, and then tap in hard work and aggression, and that'd be the key components.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so what does your day-to-day look like for you? Is it kind of the same thing, or do you do different stuff all the time?
No, it's different all the time, and then that's what that's just my personality. Everybody's different, but my personality, I want it to be different. So I typically get to the office around 5:30. I'll do some reading, research, and the reason that is, most people aren't there that early. So my job is to call either existing or prospective clients, and I can't talk to them. You're going to have internal people, colleagues, people that help you with your clients. They're going to want your time throughout the day. So if I want to do any kind of research, it's typically before or after hours. So I'll get there, knock out any kind of personal research I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then my voice is hoarse at the end of every day because I'm talking to somebody about something, some new business opportunity, some different, if I have a new client that's worth a lot of money, but I don't know that much about it, then I need to spend time researching. And then just the whole variables, you go on sales calls, you go on renewal calls. Sometimes I'll go on mentor calls and help somebody
Mm-hmm.
else out, which is fun because you're training them up. And then there's relationship building events that are different. I mean, in our industry, and I'm not great at any of these, but you could go hunt birds, hunt bigger animals, skeet shoot, golf, go to lunch, go to happy hour, go do what I do enjoy a lot of, because there's so many different construction things, which again is what we focus on. Go do a field ride with a customer or potential customer and
Okay.
fully understand. So you spend a few hours with them and you're learning about how to excavate I-45, which is, a huge project. And I'm like, I never studied any of that.
So one of the bigger parts is social events with your customers, like building relationships and whatnot.
Yeah, and instead of something, it's 2021, but we used to call them market development events. So
Mm-hmm.
the market would be insurance, right? So market development, market being anything that progresses your relationship with that customer, potential customer forward. And a lot of those things, plus plenty more, are what we would call market development events. And that's what keeps it different. It's not, the day-to-day is completely different.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Okay, so next, when do you go out on these, like, to try to bring in customers? Is there a tactic you use to try to persuade them to choose you over other insurance companies, or is it just purely if they want to or not?
Well, I'd say there's three answers to that. The first one is just persistence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of these folks have long relationships,
Mm-hmm.
similar they do in a lot of other industries. They've been with so and so for so long, they've taken care of them. And we represent multiple carriers, so they can do whatever they want with agents. Kind of like banking or real estate or whatever. They've had the same
Mm-hmm.
realtor, bank, whatever, forever. So it's persistence helps break down that relationship, because for them to go to us, they theoretically have to break up with somebody else, right?
Yes, sir.
In a long relationship. So, but in doing that, that goes back to the product knowledge we talked about. You
Yes,
got to
sir.
give them a good reason as to why to break up. So
Okay.
if you know or an expert at a few things, you can take that information to you at least use it as a wedge to get in and get a legitimate shot versus a, maybe.
Yes, sir.
But that persistence also pays off in the third mark, which to me is one of the big drivers of why I'm in it. The insurance agency as a whole probably has an average age of 55 to 57, somewhere in that range. And one of the courses I went to one time, somebody said, you've never seen in a movie, you've seen a movie about pharmaceuticals, you play a movie about Wall Street and banking, you don't see it about industry. It's not sexy, so to speak.
Yes,
So
sir.
nobody seeks it out. So there's a lot of money to be made there, and that opportunity through that persistence. For instance, I've got probably 4 or 5 on my list right now that they've been with their guy or gal for 30 years, and they don't want to leave them. But that guy or gal is about to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do, we're right there on these big accounts ready to go. So that's where the persistence kicks in.
So just persistence and continuing to meet with them and talk to them about what you guys offer is what you want to say?
Yeah, and you can, that gives you time to continue to build your knowledge.
Yes, sir.
So persistence and knowledge. So yeah.
Okay. So what are some challenges you've run into during your time as an insurance agent?
One of the things for me, coming from the medical world, where I know how to do a procedure because there's 12 steps. There's you may have to pivot. That's the surgeon's job, but you know how to do. You know what the steps are. I think we have 100 different types of policies that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And in construction, or we get asked all the time. A friend of a friend may own a restaurant or a certain company that we don't do. I'm like, man, I know the basics. But the challenges are just the whole different types of coverages and situations out there. Customers are always asking, well, what if this happens? I don't know. I bet I've asked that 200 different ways this year alone. I mean, man, I can't predict the future, and it all depends because we are not the decision maker. We're the middleman trying to set them up with what we think to be the right coverage based on what they tell us.
Okay.
And then customers change too. Customers they're a developer their whole life, and they're like, you know what? I think I can make an extra $100,000 this year if I actually build the whatever. And so they start doing that. You're like, well, you got to tell us because you're not covered for that. So those kind of pivots are, and then the biggest one is what we just talked about, but it's also a benefit at some point is they're long relationships. Some guy may not even be, or guy may not be around forever, but you know what? I've been with them for 20 years and they haven't done me wrong, so I feel loyal to them.
Yes, sir.
That's the biggest challenge is apathy.
Okay. So I know you talked about earlier having a family in the banking business. My next question is it tough for you to ask like friends or family to use your company, or is it just make it that much easier?
Not at all. It's I like the challenge. So I'm different because if you ask some other people this, they will shy away from them and won't touch them to save their life, including a couple people in our office. Not for me at all. Those are the first people I call. But it was after I gained the knowledge that we talked about earlier, because if you're going to do that, it's just the way I'm wired, I better be prepared to make sure they're covered correctly.
Yes, sir.
The last thing I want is to get that business and then have a product that's incorrect.
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay. So last question. Do you enjoy this profession? Like, do you like it?
I do. I do. I like to compete. So, it could be this. It could be any of the other things we talked about earlier. As long as you're competing, it's fun. But what I like most about it is, for me at least, the organization I work with will take the feedback. And the feedback right now for somebody, 25 to 45, there's so much of a different vision of way of doing things than the insurance agents or insurance industry has ever done as a whole. So back to that opportunity piece is if we can, there's a good chance of being an industry leader while making a good living. Those are what I like.
Okay, that's cool. All right, well, that's all the questions I had today. I think I actually learned a lot about what you're doing, and I appreciate you giving me the time of the day to ask a few questions to you.
Man, I appreciate you reaching out. If there's ever anything you need, just